After getting into a car accident, I ended up with a moderate concussion. To mess with my parents, I pretended to have amnesia. Unexpectedly, they decided right away to leave all the land compensation money to my brother. When I found out, I touched my phone. They probably don't know yet. I just won a huge lottery prize. I've always felt proud of my family. I was born in a small, remote village where most girls don't have it too good. Favoring boys over girls was the norm there. But whenever I saw girls being beaten, scolded, or who couldn't get enough to eat, I felt proud of my family. I thought I was lucky to be born into my family, until the day of the Double 11 shopping festival, when I found out I'd won the Aunt Koi prize, and realized I was really lucky. When I saw the winning message on my phone, I couldn't believe my eyes. I kept opening and closing the page carefully. Congratulations, Hungry Mia. You've won the 2024 Aunt Koi Award. It was real. I had become the lucky Koi girl. I jumped with excitement in my dorm room. I had only clicked aimlessly after paying the balance on Double 11, never expecting this big surprise. When I scrolled to the prize details and saw the 100 million yuan jackpot, my heart nearly stopped. I quickly asked my manager for leave. All I wanted was to rush home and share the news with my family. Thinking about my parents and brother, still living in the countryside, made me a bit sad. We're a typical farming family. My parents are timid and have always relied on farming to support me and my brother, even sending me to college. Now with all this money, I felt it was my duty to repay them well. I left the company and, feeling lavish, hailed a private car. Even on my way home, the thrill hadn't worn off. Maybe I pushed my luck too far, because when I got rear-ended, I found out what it means for joy to turn to sorrow. My head smacked against the car door with a thud, and I heard a sharp ringing in my mind. When I woke up, I was lying in a hospital bed. I was relieved. The seatbelt probably saved my life. But I couldn't escape the concussion and the bloody gash on the back of my head. Once the wound was treated, I saw my worried parents standing in the hospital room. Thinking of the big win on my phone, I suddenly wanted to surprise them. Mom, Dad, what's going on? Wasn't I at school? Where am I? Hearing my words, their faces went blank. My mom's eyes welled up immediately. Dad quickly hugged her shoulder, comforting her, then said to me, Mia, you've graduated. What school? I put on an exaggerated expression. No way, I still have homework to do. My parents believed it and called the doctor right away. I overheard the doctor telling them MS. Mia has a moderate concussion, which can cause memory confusion. After the doctor left, the room was silent for a moment. My dad laughed and said, Mia, just rest. We'll get you something to eat. When I saw they believed me, I panicked and was about to explain, Dad, I was just joking. But trailing behind them, I saw my dad grab my mom's arm and pull her to the staircase. Curious, I secretly followed and listened in. Old man, now that Mia has amnesia, this means we don't have to tell her about the land compensation, my dad muttered around his smoking pipe. You mean we keep it from her? My mom replied in a displeased tone. We decided to use that money to buy Kyle a house in the province. It'll make finding a bride easier. She grumbled. You always said boys and girls are equal. No family here treats their daughter this good. My mom looked regretful. I thought we should treat her well, send her to college, so we could get a big dowry when she gets married. Who knew she'd turn out so headstrong? I felt my world crumble. The family I once felt so proud of was just an illusion woven by my parents. I'm 27 and have a brother, Kyle, who's 3 years younger. Even though the four of us didn't live in luxury, my world was always rich. Since childhood, my brother and I always split things evenly. Sometimes, because of gender, my mom would treat me even better. But now I could see the truth. It turns out that my parents gave me all their love, but saved all the money for my brother. Thinking about my brother, a glimmer of hope welled inside me. Growing up, he and I were very close, and he was always considerate. I believed that even if my parents had this idea, my brother wouldn't agree. Right? He probably wouldn't agree. While I was lost in thought, my dad's phone rang. Dad, how's my sister? Hearing my brother's concerned voice on the line warmed my heart. The phone was on speaker, and my mom quickly chimed in. They explained everything to him in low, hurried voices. After a long silence on the line, Mom, Dad, Is this a good idea? Finally came Kyle's voice, hesitant but giving me a glimmer of hope. Sensing his hesitation, my mom hurriedly reassured him, why not? Kyle, you're the man in our family, in our village, who lets a girl like Mia inherit. And Olivia said she'd marry you if you have a house, right? When my brother's girlfriend Olivia came up, Kyle wavered again. But the doctor said it's temporary amnesia. What if she remembers? My dad replied at once, oh, it's not that easy to remember. Even if she does, we'll have moved into the city by then. Just keep it from her. Mom added in her slightly accented Mandarin, even if she finds out, what can she do? Mia wouldn't dare wreck her relationship with her family. We've been good enough to her. If it weren't for your tough old grandma, I wouldn't have funded her studies all these years. Sensing the tense conversation, my dad quickly chimed in, well, because she's our only girl. Otherwise, why would my mom spoil her like this? Kyle finally broke the silence after listening to his parents' complaints. I know, I'm just worried she might drift away from the family. My sister isn't getting any younger. She's bound to get married soon. And I was counting on the dowry to buy myself a car. At this point, I couldn't hold back my tears. Holding my phone tightly, I thought about all the plans I made after winning the lottery. It was all just a joke. The past 27 years felt like a complete waste, because I had never really seen my family's true colors. Luckily, I hadn't told anyone about my win. As long as I have money, I won't have it too bad. Half an hour later, Kyle showed up at my hospital. Without the pretense of family love, I could see the calculation in their eyes. My loving brother didn't even ask about my injuries. Instead, he was probing how much I still remembered. I decided to keep my lottery win a secret, just like they're hiding the news about the land acquisition from me. The next morning, Joe came by to visit. Mia, do you remember Joe? My parents seemed surprised. I nodded. I forgot other things, but I remember being with Joe. Then I looked hopefully at Joe. Joe, can I stay at your place for a bit? Joe's my boyfriend of 10 years. We started dating in high school and stayed together through college. He's got a clean look. And after college, he got a stable government job. His family's doing all right too. We were even planning on getting married. As expected, my parents didn't stop me since they were busy dealing with the land acquisition. On the way there, I held back tears as I got into Joe's car. But once the door closed, I couldn't hold it back any longer. Joe was startled. Mia, what's wrong? Is your head still hurting? I tried to calm down. Joe, my parents, I told him everything as calmly as I could. But I couldn't shake the emptiness inside me. After hearing it all, Joe's face turned grim. You mean to say, your parents didn't plan on giving you a single cent from the land compensation? I nodded, tears streaming down my face. But deep inside, I had a sinking feeling. Why wasn't Joe more concerned about me as my boyfriend? Why did he jump straight to the land issue? Without another word, I arrived at Joe's apartment. Exhausted from crying, I went straight to bed. Half awake, I heard Joe talking on the phone in the living room, probably to his mom. Mia, wake up. We need to talk. As I struggled to shake off the dizziness, Joe pulled me up. What is it? I asked, confused. Mia, are we really just going to let the land acquisition slide? What else can we do? I looked into his eyes, seeing his irritation. I truly didn't understand what Joe was thinking. It's my parents' land after all. If they want to give me money, I'll take it. If not, am I supposed to force it out of them? Seeing how I didn't care, Joe frowned. Mia, the way your parents are dealing with this shows they don't respect you. Are you really going to let it go? Plus, think about the compensation. I've calculated. Your family's land could fetch at least $1 million. We talked about having 2 kids. Kids in a house costs money. His words made me want to explode. Not 2 kids, not even 1. If I can't give them equal love, they won't be happy. I don't want my child to experience the pain I'm feeling now. Seeing Joe getting more and more worked up, I tried to calm him down. Okay, Joe, stop. They're still my parents. If they decide to give me money, I'll take it. If they don't, I'm not going to ask. Even though I now see my family's true nature, blood ties can't be erased. But at least I have Joe by my side now. Once we get married, maybe my ties with my family will gradually fade. A few days later, I was thrilled when I received a message from the lottery claiming office. I planned to ask Joe to take a couple of days off to accompany me to claim the prize. Before I could explain it to him, Joe spoke up. No way, Mia. You know how busy I am at work. Don't run around unnecessarily. Lately, he's been distant, not as warm as before. What he didn't know was that although I told him I'm going for a follow-up, I'm actually going to claim my prize. Since he didn't want to come, I didn't push it. After dressing up a bit, I took a cab to the lottery office. Once there, an employee told me I'd receive the prize within 2 weeks. I left my small apartment's address for any shipped prizes and was ready to break the news to Joe after returning. Back home, a surprise was waiting for me. Mia, you're back. Joe's mom was sitting on the couch with a big smile. I've met her before, and she always came off as a graceful lady. Though she didn't talk much, she always had a friendly smile. Hello, Auntie, have you eaten? I smiled warmly, hoping to make a good impression. She nodded slightly and motioned for me to come over. I wanted to discuss something with you today. Look at this first. She directed my attention to a piece of paper on the table. It was a page full of words. As I read closer, I realized it was a prenuptial agreement. Seeing my troubled expression, Joe's mom said, Joe doesn't know about this, and it's not official. Just my thoughts. If you agree, we can talk to a lawyer. I sat there, my heart heavy and full of sadness, fixated on the documents in my hands. Listen carefully, we bought this house for Joe. It can be your wedding home, but it's not really yours. Just being upfront, if you and Joe don't work out, forget about this house. Joe's mom was looking at me as she explained. I was a bit taken aback by her words. Joe and I had agreed on the bride price, and he promised me $200,000, but now, and then it got even more shocking. Oh, by the way, don't get your marriage certificate just yet. You can have the wedding, but wait until you're 3 months pregnant before getting the certificate. Also, if the first child is a girl, you have to promise me you'll have another one within 2 years. I felt like I was falling into a trap. Is this family really my future? Before I could respond, Joe's mom went on. And the most important point. You young people always talk about equality nowadays, right? After marriage, your incomes are separate. Kids' expenses are split equally. We the Davies aren't freeloaders. I almost laughed at her justified tone, but I couldn't take it anymore. Auntie, are you sure Joe feels the same way? And remember, brain diseases are serious. If anything happens, how is Kyle going to deal with having a sister like that? Her voice lowered cruelly. Might as well let her die. End it once and for all. My mom seemed scared. That's not right. Smack, get it together. The compensation money is here. We're taking our son to buy a house in the city. Before that, we need to cut ties with this girl, so she doesn't drag us down. My mom's voice rose with excitement. Really? We're going to be grandparents. At that point, it didn't matter anymore. There was nothing left in this home for me. Without saying much, I laid on the floor, clutching my head, screaming, Mom, my head hurts. Please take me to the hospital. Seeing me like that, my parents rushed over. My mom held me, worried. Mia, what's happening? Mom, my head feels like it's going to explode. Please take me to the hospital, I begged through tears. My mom averted her eyes. Mia, I'll make you some tea with red sugar. Have a good sleep, and you'll be fine. But I saw the melatonin she added to it. That was when I realized they wouldn't take me to the hospital. My dad carried me to my room, where I pretended to sleep. Soon, I heard the door open. My brother returned home. Thinking I'd taken the melatonin, they chatted openly. Dad's right, Kyle said. Following the doctor's conservative treatment offers no quality of life. Brain surgery isn't child's play. Anything can go wrong. My mom sounded worried. True, but she's in so much pain. Kyle grew impatient. Stop overthinking it. We need to break off from her. Olivia said, no new house, no wedding. Don't you want to be a grandmother? Mentioning the grandson immediately firmed my mom's resolve. Yes, the grandson is important. Keep Olivia happy and worry about other things later. My dad chimed in, let's be upfront. Give her $2,000 for rent and keep her out of our lives. I didn't react because to them, I was already a lost cause. No future, no hope. The next morning, after everyone left, I went to the hospital to see my sick grandmother. She lived with my uncle and his family, and at 74, after losing my grandfather young, She never remarried, raising 2 sons alone. Each son had 3 children, but I, the only girl, was her favorite. My childhood with Grandma was the happiest. Village girls grew up fast, taking care of siblings and chores. But I, in dresses Grandma made, roamed freely through the village. Schooling took me to the city, a day marked by her tearful farewell as I boarded the bus. With time and age, we drifted apart after I graduated and stayed in the city. A month ago, my uncle told me Grandma fell while feeding chickens, needing hip surgery. The cost was too steep for filial piety alone. Uncle neither consented to the surgery nor dared to take Grandma home. I'll never forget arriving at the hospital 2 weeks ago. My uncle showed a thick stack of bills. Little brother, these are Mom's expenses for the past 2 weeks. Take a look. The daily medical bills of $2,000 have already crushed this family. It's a never-ending pit if we continue. My dad, smoking a cigarette, said, Kyle's not young anymore and is planning to get married. We don't have the savings to support 2 kids through school. Before my uncle could say anything, my aunt chimed in sarcastically, Oh, you guys don't have money? Yet you sent that girl to school? The old lady lived with us for so many years. Shouldn't it be your turn now? And this medical bill should be shared too. Don't forget, Grandma adores Mia the most. I bet 80% of the retirement money will end up with Mia. My dad was left speechless by my aunt's words, and after that day, nothing was settled. This time at the hospital, I knew I had to bring Grandma home and take care of her. When I entered the hospital room, to my surprise, both my dad and uncle were there. Mia, you're here. Why aren't you at work today? Grandma, lying in the hospital bed, looked gentle and her eyes lit up when she saw me. Tears welled up in my eyes. Grandma looked so frail, like a skeleton. Grandma, how are you? My dear Grandma, missed you. I even dreamed of your wedding yesterday. You looked so beautiful in a wedding dress. I held Grandma's hand tightly, unable to hold back my tears. Grandma, don't worry. I'll see you soon. After calming Grandma down, I left the room. Outside, my dad and uncle were arguing, while my aunt and mom bickered back and forth. I understood. They all wanted to leave Grandma behind, just like my parents wanted to abandon me. No one wanted to say it first, fearing the label of being ungrateful would stick. Uncle, aunt, Grandma loved me the most. I can't abandon her. If neither of you can manage, I'll take care of her. Hearing me, my parents' faces turned pale. My dad clenched his fists, ready to lash out. What nonsense! Get out! You're a bottomless pit yourself. You want to drag us down with you? My mom grabbed me, wanting me to take back my words. Mia, don't be silly. We don't have the money. My heart felt cold, tears streaming non-stop. What should I do then? Grandma loved me the most. I can't abandon her. Just then, footsteps echoed down the hallway. I turned to see Kyle and his girlfriend. Kyle looked furious. Mia, I'm telling you, don't start anything. If you want to take care of that old hag, do it yourself. Don't drag our family down. My dad supported him eagerly. Exactly. Don't use my money to play the good person. Kyle's girlfriend, Olivia, chimed in. Kyle, you only told me about your sister's situation. Didn't mention a seriously ill grandma. I can't agree to this. It'll be such a burden on us. She rested her hand on her barely showing belly. I'm carrying the first grandson of the Wilson family. Everything at home belongs to my son. Don't blame me if I'm forced to be ruthless. My parents and Kyle rushed to reassure her. Of course not, Olivia. We're already planning to cut ties with this girl. She won't have anything to do with our family in the future. Even though I knew this about my family, it still stung to hear it. Despite the compensation for the demolished house being over $1 million, neither I nor Grandma ever heard about it from my parents and brother. I put on a hurt, shocked expression. What are you saying, Mom and Dad? Kyle, Olivia, I have brain cancer, and now Grandma's situation is dire. If you abandon me, what should I do? Kyle scoffed. What to do? Nothing. You know what brain cancer means. With your condition, treatment is pointless. You might as well save some money. I ignored him and stared directly at my parents. Mia, don't blame us, we have no choice, my mom said, eyes brimming with tears. My dad added, we've raised you for so long. We've done nothing wrong in our lives. Just let it be. As I was racking my brain, trying to figure out how to bring up the idea of hiring a lawyer, Olivia spoke up unexpectedly. She clutched Kyle's arm, whining, "Honey, I heard the law doesn't distinguish between sons and daughters. A girl's entitled to her share of inheritance. Since we're on the topic, why not get a lawyer to oversee this? That way, our son won't be shortchanged." Everyone was stunned at Olivia's suggestion. My dad nodded vigorously. Right, Olivia's got a point. He turned to me coldly. "I'll find a lawyer tomorrow, and we'll sign a document cutting ties." Finished speaking. My aunt wasn't one to be outdone. "And about your grandma too. Everyone here heard what you said. You can't back out." She then smiled sweetly at my dad. "Little brother, let's take care of this lawyer business tomorrow. And maybe take it up with Mom too." She left the sentence hanging, but everyone understood. I was boiling with anger, shaking. "Have you all lost your conscience? Grandma raised you all single-handedly. I didn't care about the money, but what if Grandma found out that her sons had turned their backs on her? Would it crush her?" Before they could argue, I said, "Fine. We'll do it your way. Tomorrow it is. If I die, don't ever bother me. And don't come to me about caregiving. Mom, Dad, I'll handle Grandma from now on." With that, I walked off, just as I was about to open the hospital room door. Behind me, their voices continued. "Geez, does she think she's somebody important? With brain cancer, how long can she live? Mom, Dad, don't worry. I'll handle the caregiving. Or worse come to worst, there's always your first grandchild." "Yep. Alright, you just focus on having a healthy baby, so I can hold my grandson, and I'll be content." I took a deep breath, closed my eyes for a moment, and adjusted my expression before pushing open the door to the hospital room. "Grandma, I'm back. What do you feel like eating?" Grandma's face still held her usual smile. "Sweetie, I know the surgery and medicine are really expensive. I've lived long enough, so maybe it's just better to let go." Tears filled my eyes as I knelt by her bed. "Grandma, don't give up. I have the money. Please listen to me." Then, I told her everything that's happened recently. Thankfully, Grandma didn't get upset. She just held me gently and whispered, "I knew my sweetie was so lucky. You even won such a big prize, amazing." Seeing the light return to her eyes, I carefully mentioned what had just happened. When I talked about how my parents and uncle insisted on cutting ties, the expected sadness didn't appear. "Well, cutting ties is good too. Saves them from riding on my sweetie's coattails." Grandma added, "Don't worry about them. Just live your life well." I sniffed and nodded. That night, I stayed in the hospital with Grandma. We talked about so many things, like the good days ahead, and my dream of taking her to see the world. Although Grandma didn't show it, how could she not be hurt by her own son's betrayal? The next morning, right after we finished breakfast, we heard a racket outside the room. In no time, Mom, Dad, and my uncle and aunt entered with a man in a sharp suit. "This is Martin, the lawyer. We've prepared the agreement. Take a look." I looked at them without any expression. None of them even glanced at Grandma. All their eyes filled with relief. "Alright, I'll sign." I read the agreement carefully and felt a cold laugh within. Birth and death, we have nothing to do with each other now. Without hesitation, I signed my name and handed it to the lawyer. As soon as they left, I immediately asked the doctor for a hospital transfer. I took Grandma to a private hospital with the best reputation and environment in the city. I arranged for a single room and scheduled the surgery as quickly as possible. A month later, Grandma recovered well enough to leave the hospital. I stayed busy during that month. The prize money had already been deposited. First, I bought a small villa in the city, so when Grandma got out, she'd go straight there. I also purchased several shops and apartments in the city center, fixed them up, and rented them out. Now, I just want to spend more time with Grandma for however long she has. With 80 million left in my account, I set 30 million aside for fixed investments. We'd live off the profits and rent. The remaining 50 million, I divided in two, one part for risk investment and the other for charity. I want to help rural girls get an education, just like the warmth Grandma gave me. Once everything settled, I took Grandma on a trip. We drove to the beach, felt the ocean breeze, and even traveled to see the northern lights. If it weren't for her health, I'd take her abroad too. But even this made Grandma very satisfied. "Sweetie, I've lived a fulfilled life." Grandma smiled at me one night before bed. "Haha, Grandma, just stay healthy. We still have so many places to visit. Sweetie, I'm getting old. Let's go home, don't worry. I'll still be here with you. Respecting Grandma's wish, we headed back home. Just as life seemed to settle, the TV station requested an interview because of my charity work. I gladly accepted. When asked by the reporter, I didn't hide anything. Yeah, all the funds came from a big lottery win. I believe it's a lucky break, but part of the winnings should go back to society. I grew up in a rural area. I've seen too much gender inequality, and I want to help those girls. Maybe, just maybe, I could change a life. I knew the interview would reveal my win to family and friends. But it didn't matter. I've protected what I wanted, so I wouldn't care about what's not mine anymore. Unexpectedly, Joe reached out before my family. Mia, I made a mistake. Can we start over? Since our breakup, I couldn't forget you. I really love you. I calmly replied, oh really? I haven't forgotten you either. I still remember how you added salt to my wounds when my family betrayed me. Did you know when your mom came with the agreement I'd just won the lottery? I planned to share it with you. But your reaction showed me we can't weather tough times together. I should thank you for teaching me a valuable lesson. Joe cried on the other end of the line. It wasn't like that. My mom forced me. I had no choice. I could hear the regret in his voice. But was it about our lost relationship? Or the wealth that slipped away? Luckily, none of this concerned me anymore. Even if Joe regrets it, at least he knows to keep some pride. My parents and brother didn't have this worry. A few months later, the three of them showed up directly at the villa. Sis, help me out. Kyle cried without a shred of dignity, clinging to my leg. My parents frowned on the side. It's all that Olivia's fault. The kid isn't even mine, and she ran off with our subsidy money. I snorted, no money. My dad jumped in, what nonsense. I saw the news. It said you won the lottery. We're not asking for much, just $2 million for your brother. You'll need his help someday. I replied with a blank face. I don't have any money, and even if I did, I wouldn't give you a penny. My mom couldn't keep it in anymore and started throwing a fit. You ungrateful girl. We did so much for you, raised you, sent you to college. Do you not even care about us anymore? Just as my dad was about to raise his hand to hit me, a frail figure rushed in front of me to shield me. It was Grandma. She raised her cane and gave them a good whack. I raised you up, never expected you'd turn out like this. Then she turned to me and said, Sweetie, don't pay attention to them. You cut ties long ago, and it's shameless they want money now. I stood behind Grandma. The agreement we signed before has legal effect. Don't think you'll get a dime from me. Wait, Mom, I'm your son. Don't call me Mom. I don't have a son anymore. We cut ties long ago, no use talking now. Mia spent all her money for my medical bills. Thank goodness she's not like you, you ingrate. If you want money, first pay Mia back for my medical treatment. Legally, a son is responsible for his parents' care, not a granddaughter. Watching Grandma, furious and waving her cane to drive them away, I felt relieved. I hope to be able to spend a few more years with Grandma, so she won't have any regrets.